Hello, and thanks for watching. Today we're going to be discussing a controversial subject: leaning the mixture on a 172 Cessna with the glass cockpit. There's several ways you can do it. I'm going to show you what the pilot operating handbook tells you to do. There are other ways to do it. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but we're going to lean this to a recommended lean of 50 degrees Fahrenheit, rich of peak. Now, I'm sure you've watched other videos, and if you have not, and you do go look elsewhere, you'll hear them talk about lean of peak. That does not apply to you. That does not apply to this airplane. Lean of peak is a whole nother topic, and it's for planes with injected motors, and also with special injectors called gamma injectors. All we're worried about today is rich of peak and a 4-cylinder 172 Cessna. Now there's a link to this manual in the description below. It's free. Matter of fact, you can find most pilot operating handbooks free just by doing a simple Google search. But this manual is a ton of information that is useful. It's easy to read, and you will be surprised how much you've missed out on just by not reading this manual. So we've got to an altitude of 6,000 feet. I've set my power. When you go to set mixture, the first thing you want to do is maintain altitude, set your power, and then begin your mixture enrichment process. So we're sitting in the G1000. A lot of people will base their mixture off the RPM, and that can be very inaccurate with the G1000. It also has a exhaust gas temperature display right here, but that's not what that's meant for. First thing we want to do is click on the lean button here on our screen, and then you will see these funny looking shapes come up. This is each cylinder. This is the cylinder head temperature for each cylinder. This is your fuel, and this is your fuel flow, and of course your RPM. So now what we want to do is we want to find the hottest burning cylinder. Right now we're at 1380, so we'll go down here to cycle select, cylinder select, and lock for the hottest temperature, which is 1395. You can also find that by hitting assist, and it will automatically go, but we don't want to use assist yet. I will show you how to use assist, but if you can subtract 50 from any number, you shouldn't have to use it. So what we're going to do is we're at the hottest burning temperature for this cylinder, which is cylinder number 4, and we're going to start pulling out on the mixture. Now at first you can pull out a little ways and start this process. We'll go out to right there. The manual says that once you make an adjustment in the mixture, you should give it a full minute before you go any further. The worst thing you can do when adjusting the mixture on an aircraft is go too fast. Give it time. Give it a minute in between each adjustment before you look at your exhaust gas temperature to tell if it has peaked or not. As you can see right now, we are peaking a little bit. We're up to 1430. Now I know from experience this number can get upward to 1500. As you see, as we're sitting here talking, the number is continuing to rise. That means it has not peaked yet at that mixture level. But I know we can go a little further, so we're going to adjust it just a little bit more and see where that gets us. Do not pay attention to this RPM gauge. It is possible for the RPMs to go down and this not be peaked yet. You have to go by the exhaust gas temperature. Forget about RPM. That's no longer a factor. As you see, we're still climbing. Like I said, it can take a minute, but be patient. You know, just watch how I do this. Be patient. Let's do this together. We'll get it climbed up there. It will take us a few minutes. So we're at 1445. I'm going to go ahead and stretch it out there just a little bit more. Okay, it's continuing to climb again. Now the reason why it takes so long for this number to climb is that right now we're not burning at maximum efficiency. Maximum peak is maximum efficiency. That's where it's burning every bit of the fuel that's coming into that motor. It's burning it off. Right now we have excess fuel in the cylinders. That's keeping the motor cooler. So as we adjust and burn less fuel, we still got to burn that excess fuel off to bring that engine temperature up, that exhaust gas temperature up. Now during this whole process, you want to keep an eye on your cylinder head temperature. If your cylinder head temperature reaches this red line right here, you've got problems, big problems. Start looking for a place to get this thing down. So we're at 1450. We'll go ahead and give it a little more juice, or take a little more juice. We're actually reducing the amount of fuel that we're putting into the cylinder. Now you can listen to this motor too, and you can hear that hum of that motor get higher and higher pitch. A lot of guys will go to where they hear that high pitch and just a little bit past it to where the pitch drops off a little bit, or it might get a little shudder to it, and then they back it off. And that is good for people that know what they're doing. If you're a student pilot and you're just learning this, you need to stick with the book, unless your flight instructor instructs you otherwise. Okay, so we're at 1460. We're climbing again, 1465. Alright, 1470. See how we've just let it sit here? I haven't moved it. I let it sit here again for a little bit. It's still getting that temperature up there. It's still burning off that excess fuel. Alright, I'm going to pull it up just a little bit more. $14.75. Let's see if we can get a little more out of it. $14.80. Oh, I didn't even touch it. It's taking its time. Like I said, this is a slow process. You're up here, you're on cruise control. You got the autopilot on, you ain't got nothing else to do other than look out the window, so might as well take your time and do this right. Now, some of you that are making short flights where you take off and you're going to be landing 40 miles away, you can do that. Run it up by the RPMs, or you can run it up till you hear that hum of that motor just right. You know what a good sounding motor sounds like, and then back it off a little bit. But we're going on a long trip, so we're going to need to get our best fuel economy we can, and plus, not to mention the fact that that extra fuel is burning up your spark plugs. So you want to lean this out. Efficiency is the key. All right, we're at 1480. I'm going to give it a little more mixture. $14.85. Give it some more. We'll probably get up to about 1530, somewhere in there. Is about right for 6,000 feet where we're located at. Now, while we're on the subject, if you're taking off from an airport that is above 3,000 foot above sea level, there are mixtures that need to be set before you even take off. If you don't, it could result in power failure and a crash. In the manual that's linked below, it tells you how to set your mixture before takeoff. You pretty much set it up for the best RPM and then take off and adjust from there. So we're at 1500. 1505. You know, you fly this airplane long enough, you kind of learn excuse me, how far you can pull this mixture out before you need to start slowing down and start adjusting the EGT slowly. The reason why you should go slowly also is if you get too far over, if you get lean of peak over, that's fine. But where the trouble happens is when you go to enrich it again to reset your mixture, you do damage to the motor then. The pressures throughout the motor are so different that it will cause a shake and could cause metal to contaminate the engine. Now, the pilot's operating handbook suggests that before 50 hours, as you can see right here, before 50 hours, I've got 38 hours on here. Before 50 hours, you should be burning at a rate of, your power should be set to 75%. Alright, give it a little more, see if we can get some more out of it. Get that fuel flow to drop a little bit more. Notice we're down to about 9.9 gallons an hour right now. Believe it or not, the less fuel we're giving it, the more power we're getting at this point. because at altitude, performance comes with less fuel and more air. 1515, 1520, 1525. Our head temperature staying nice and cool, around 370. I'll give it a little bit more. We're at 1530. You notice our RPM has dropped, and that our exhaust gas temperature just dropped too. So we want to go back slowly, get that back up to 1530. That's our highest number. Let's let that sit for a minute. $15.35. A lot of folks would have hit peak right there. You gotta wait till this exhaust gas temperature levels out. But we know it's gonna level out right here at this setting. Okay, so I'm going to say 1535 is our peak. Now we could subtract 50 from that and say 1485 is what we got to be set at. But for those of you that have trouble subtracting 50 from 1535, which is not demeaning in any way, some folks ain't good at math. Click the assist button right here, and you'll see this little thing up here. It says peak, 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that 0 degrees it's going to turn into a negative as we start decreasing. If we went over peak, it would turn into a negative number. We're good as long as that don't turn to a positive number. If that turns to a positive number, let me give you an example here. If I start leaning in on this, I'm going to start going rich. If that would have went positive, I wasn't at peak. But we're going negative now. Now we're leaning rich of peak now. Rich means that we're enriching the motor with more fuel. We're going to give it back some fuel, and we're going to enrich it and get it down to about 50 degrees minus peak to the rich side. So just like with finding your peak temperature, you have to give this time also. But we're closer and closer to being done. Now, certain flight instructors will tell you to burn 50 degrees rich of peak. I've seen a lot. They go by 75 rich of peak. I've even seen people say as low as 20 degrees rich of peak. But the manual calls for 50 degrees rich of peak. The manual also says that if you're going to be burning this thing at full throttle the whole time, to keep it enriched all the way. So we're at 28 degrees, rich peak. I'm just slowly turning this back in. On the actual aircraft, you would twist this knob. You can push the little button in the middle there and pull her out, but you only do that to begin with to kind of get your settings started. But for these fine tune, you would be twisting this red knob right here. This is being done in Flight Simulator 2020. Okay, so we're at 44 degrees, rich of peak. I'm going to go in one more time here. The closer these little bars are here together, the better. The better your engine's running. Even though they're one bar off right here, that's less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit difference. The book says that that's less than 100 degrees, so we're not too bad. All right, so we're at 49 degrees minus a peak. We have reached our rich peak mixture where we need to be. We're burning 10.6 gallons an hour. We're doing 114 knots. We don't have speed fairings on, and it's a little cold outside, so I think we're doing great. It's 6,000 feet altitude. I hope this has helped you out when it comes to leaning the mixture on your motor and getting better performance out of it at altitude, and not having to play the spit and sputter game, because you don't want that. You don't want to be burning too rich. You don't want to be burning too lean, because all you're doing is damaging the motor. If you have been looking into lean and peak, you're on the right path. You're studying the right stuff, because in turbo motors, turbo props and props with fuel injected motors, you will be using lean and peak, especially on long trips. You can really get your mileage out of those, because you can go lean and peak and really get your fuel flow down a lot. There's some videos out there, guys that are a lot more qualified than I am to discuss it. I recommend watching videos by Rob Machado. If you've been around flight simulators for very long, you've heard that name. Rob was with Microsoft Flight Simulator for years. When you did his tutorials and lessons inside Flight Simulator, you've probably done a Rob Machado tutorial. So, that being said, guys, I appreciate you watching. I hope this has helped somebody out. If you don't understand everything I talked about, please leave a comment below, and I will answer your question the best that I can. And if I can't answer it in text, I'll make another video just for you. So, thanks. I'll see you next time.